Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by The Guillen Grid, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
Welcome into the Blackout Show. We need a new open because all of them have been traded or left via free agency. It's the Blackout Show. We're live at Little Joe's. What neighborhood do we call it? This is around UIC on Taylor Street. Little Italy. We're live at Little Joe's episode of the Blackout Show. I'm Slavko Bekovic, joined by Ozzy Jr. To my right, Gonzo. All the way on the left, Justin. We don't have a baseball game to talk about tonight because Mother Nature didn't want to cooperate. So we're here, cramped in a little booth, talking on one microphone, and you're going to love it for an hour and a half at least. Maybe, maybe not. This podcast tonight brought to you by El Bandito. Chelly's Chili came out with the tequila. El Bandito tequila. We may or may not have a few drinks tonight.
It feels like when you're...
We're passing on one microphone, remember.
El Bandito, that's what I like the logo. When you drink El Bandito, I heard that you become one.
El Bandito Yankee Tequila. There's a new añejo that just came out. So shout out to Chris Chelios. We tried to get him out tonight. He didn't show up because he's a loser. He's got a lot of other things on his plate that are much more important than the Blackout Show. So we're going to get started tonight talking about a team that has slowly turned it around. And just in time for this episode, they got shut out 7-0. And then the White Sox just didn't play today because Mother Nature said they couldn't lose today. So my question to you fellas is, since you've been so locked in on this team for so long, they won 4 of 6. For some reason, when they play Tampa, they look a little bit better. Then they sweep Ozzy Jr.'s favorite team, the Cleveland Guardians. And then they get shut out yesterday 7-0. But what all of a sudden has caused this turnaround for the White Sox?
I think that from a turnaround, I wouldn't call it that.
A brief turnaround.
A brief turnaround. I think that Tommy Pham is a big factor. The addition of him to the lineup gives it life. You have a guy who can hit in the big league level. I think the pitching staff has actually performed a little bit better than they have in the past couple of weeks. And I'll be honest, I think that Pedro has kind of figured out a little bit what to do with the bullpen. The guys have been able to hold the leads. When you have the leads and you're holding them, you're going to get wins. And the Guardians did not get swept. They lost 3 out of 4. But I said this last week, and I'll say it again this week. If the Chicago White Sox are going to decide who the champion is going to be out of the American League Central, whoever beats up on the White Sox is going to win the division. Whoever loses to the White Sox and has struggling series like Cleveland just did, they're not going to be winning the division. So that's my take. I think Tommy Pham and the pitching.
Yeah, I've actually been really proud of the starting pitching this year. Outside of Soroka and a little bit of Flexen, you like what you've seen out of Fetty. Crochet's been competing every start. What more can you ask for in a situation? You're 15 games under 500. Your manager can't help. Your owner doesn't care. At the end of the day, the guys in the jersey have to compete, and you've been getting that out of your rotation.
Yeah, for me, Tommy Pham has been a solid veteran presence in that locker room, it seems. But besides Tommy Pham, you're seeing already a month of baseball, and there's a little bit more continuity in that lineup. There's still hiccups here and there, but with a little bit of continuity and that veteran presence of Tommy being in that lineup, we're seeing better play, especially in this past Cleveland series.
So they win 2 of 3 against the Cardinals. Careful. We don't want to drop any booze. Gonzo's drinking the Blackout cocktail, by the way. Everybody here at Little Joe's, get yourself a Blackout cocktail. It tastes exactly like a raspberry iced tea, And it's called the Blackout cocktail for obvious reasons, because you only need about 2, and you won't remember this podcast at all, which is maybe a good thing. So they win 2 of 3 against the Cardinals. They lose 2 of 3 to Tampa Bay. They played the first series really well against Tampa, then 3 of 4 to Cleveland. So when you handicap the White Sox against the Guardians, what specifically in that series changed the way that the White Sox were playing? Cleveland has been pitching their ass off all season, obviously first place or thereabout with Minnesota right now in the division. The AL Central has been way, way better than I think everybody anticipated.
Well, I think, number one, the best center fielder in the American League Central is hurt and is not Luis Robert, is Mr. Kwan. Him being out of the lineup changes the lineup a lot for Cleveland. I think him not being there shows you how important he is. I think that the big factor was they got the out. They got the key out. With runners on scoring position, the White Sox throughout the whole year would fail to get the key outs. We saw a bases loaded coming out of a huge shutout. I think that was a key moment for them making a stop to the Guardians. For example, the Guardians on 2 occasions, they were down by 1 run in the 8th inning, and the Sox shut them down. Had it been 2 weeks ago, the Guardians would have came back and won those games. So the moves have worked. So I think that, and I had them at a split. I had them 2-2 because I thought the Guardians were going to have a little bit of trouble with the White Sox, the way that they've been pitching, the way the Guardians had been hitting. But they executed. Every move that they made worked out. And again, you got to give them credit where credit's due. So that's why they have 4 in a row. 1 game away from the best streak that Pedro ever had in 5, but they missed it by 1. He'll get a couple more shots throughout this year to get it.
Absolutely disgusting display you had. Every chance you get, you want to give the Tribe their flowers. Saying Stephen Kwan is a top center fielder in the American League is a disgrace right now. In the American League Central.
I said that
Give me Kyle Isbell.
Okay.
Give me last week's Robbie Grossman. I'm not taking Kwan. No. But I think what changed the tide for the White Sox, they got some insurance runs. You've seen the back-to-back jacks with DeYoung and Corey Lee. That's something that has been missing for, let's just say, 7-8 years. They have not been supporting starting pitching, middle relief with some guys that can actually push a run across, take you over the hump, because they're talent-wise, you're not going to be able to put baseball plays together long enough to sustain offense. You're going to need a bloop and a blast, and we got that this weekend against Cleveland.
So I'm very surprised that none of you have mentioned Brian Ramos to this point, because there's been a lot of people who are very excited.
It's not my boy.
Yeah.
It's Gonzo's boy. Gonzo loves himself some Brian Ramos. We've been talking about him on this podcast way too much for way too long, but here he is. He's doing all right in the major leagues. So he batted cleanup, I believe, yesterday when they lost 7-0. And then today, thankfully, because of the rainout, he was due to bat 8th. And I don't really know what Pedro is trying to accomplish there, but I don't know how that's building anyone's confidence. Pedro, that's a different story we'll get to in a little bit. But I think Ramos is, I don't know, it's something fresh at least. I know you're really high on him, Gonzo. He's hitting the ball hard. I mean, not the power maybe that we were hoping, but you got to remember this guy was hitting 182 in AA, and then gets thrust into the major leagues on a really bad team that can't hit, and he's given him a little bit of a spark. 8 for 30, I think 267, a couple extra base hits. Like, you know, he's got some tools. He's still young, and if you're going to bat him clean up one day, what's the harm in batting him clean up multiple days? I just don't understand. If you're going to have him in the major leagues and you're going to trust him one day, unless it's a matchup thing, which you don't really know because he hasn't faced anybody that he's facing right now in the major leagues. And if you're going off of minor league stuff, that's a different story. But I didn't understand batting him cleanup, then today having him in the lineup 8th. I'm curious tomorrow if the weather holds up what Pedro's going to do. But I know you're a big Brian Ramos fan, so what have you seen from him that's, I guess, giving you some enthusiasm for at least something to watch for the rest of this year?
Yeah, no, I saw a patient hitter in the box last spring. It's just spring training, I get it. But at the same time, he's continued that patient at-bats here in the big leagues, at the major league level. And I want to echo your boy, Scott Podsednik. He couldn't say it better. There was a cutter on the outside part of the plate, and he was just ahead of it, and he pulled it over to left field, and it just shows you the patience of that bat going through the zone, that he was able to, even though he was early on it, he still pulled it into left field for a base hit. But like I said, it continues that patience in the box, and we need big league hitters in this lineup that has that patience, taking pitches, knowing their zone, and just driving the ball. And that's what he's continued to do. He's batted 300 since being here. That 300 has dipped into high 200s, but at the same time, he's a consistent hitter, and that's what this team needs right now.
So the reason that I did not mention Brian Ramos' success,
The God.
is because of exactly that point. I want him to develop and be a normal player before we're asking to extend him to a 100-year contract, building a statue for him. And it's no hate against Brian Ramos. I just want him to develop because being at the big leagues is not easy. I like the fact that he played, his defense has actually looked really good. I didn't have him being such a good defender. He looks very comfortable at third base, which is hard being your first time in the big league. So his defense is great, and Gonzo just made a great point. I love his patience, meaning, I'm not going to call it patience, I'm going to say maturity around the plate. His approach to the hitting, he doesn't look as aggressive. I always joke around, Latino players are usually very aggressive early in the counts. We like first pitch fastballs. But if you compare him to Pantera, of what it looks like from a hitting standpoint, he looks a little bit more poised when it comes to it. At the plate, but I want to give him time, man. I don't like him hitting fourth ever. I hope that they find him a spot, sixth or seventh, and just let him be there. Hitting fourth is not easy.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, in regards to Brian Ramos, I don't really see like a slugger in the box. I see a guy like Joey Meneses, who's going to do the dirty work early in the account at bat. He's going to take the pitcher's pitches in order to get a ball to drive. I think one of the most interesting at bats I've seen with his young career, he hit into a double play Sunday on a pitch that he drove the ball well. He hit the ball to the left of the second baseman. If it was anybody else, it's a RBI base hit. The second baseman made a nice play, but you can tell in the approach that that's what he wanted to do. And at a certain point, I don't want to hit Luis Robert with this stray, but there is no approach. There is no directional hitting. If the ball is going to right field, it's because he's late. It's not because he wants to do that. What I'm watching with Brian Ramos is he is stalking his prey as a 22, 23-year-old hitter in a lineup with no protection. No, it's too late. I'm a White Sox fan, remember?
He's not Jose Ramirez, but he could be Andres Jimenez.
How hard is it to bat 240?
Can he be Andres Jimenez? I don't know if he can. I don't think they're a similar player.
I'm not talking about player. I think you got a guy that won the Silver Slugger, and I think right now the way they're developing him, he's at third. But let's say Colson eventually has to move because of his size. I've already heard rumors and rumblings that he's not going to be an everyday shortstop. You have a chance for another shortstop in free agency. Brian needs to keep taking ground balls at second because usually the corners are usually where that power is going to come. You get 15 home runs as a second baseman, you look amazing. So, by the way, if Brian Ramos becomes Andres Jimenez with the Silver Sluggers and the Gold Gloves, and he consistently does that for multiple years, that would be a huge win for the Chicago White Sox.
I know Gonzo wants to add, because he loves himself, some Brian Ramos. Oh, Junior wants to say something wild.
No, this is gonna. No, his Brian Ramos plays better third base than Andrew Vaughn's plays first.
I don't think that should surprise anybody.
No, but
Because-
he's supposed to be a defensive first baseman. Everybody thought he was in it.
What does this mean?
Hold on. When Andrew Vaughn got brought up, and they said that his legs would be saved for not walking to right field, better defensively meant that his WAR and his numbers defensively would be above average, and they haven't been that. he's not only struggling offensively, which is fine. Guys struggle offensively, but he's been struggling also defensively. And they say, well, he hasn't had a chance to develop, and he was playing right field. Now he's at first base. Brian Ramos was somebody I did not have as a above average defender from what I've seen in the minor leagues. For the short 10 games that he's been in the big leagues, he looks like he can play every day third base in the big leagues. That doesn't mean he won't be a better second baseman, but meaning that defensive-wise, everyone in Chicago thinks Andrew Vaughn's a great defender. Well, if we're going to go off of that, majority of the people out there think that he is.
I'm not the majority.
He's not. You guys are not the majority, but a lot of people think he's great defensively. Brian Ramos is better defensively than Andrew.
What do you mean? What do you mean by better?
Let me moderate.
Yeah.
He catches the ball, is going to make less errors. Yeah,
Counterpoint.
So not mechanically sound. We're just by eye test.
by everything. Andrew Vaughn, the promise that they brought up as a first baseman was a plus defender.
I disagree with that. He was a pure hitter. He was drafted because he was supposed to be able to hit 300 in the big leagues.
They also said, but he's going to be able to play defense. And I think that he is not a better defender.
Well, didn't you know that they broke him because he played in the outfield?
That's not true. When you're broke, they don't break you for moving you positions. I just think that, I guess in my opinion, I had Andrew Vaughn so high defensively, and I had Brian Ramos maybe too low defensively, because obviously everyone just talks about his bad in the minor leagues. His defense is big league ready. If he leaves the big leagues anytime soon, I don't think it's going to be because they got to fix this defense. It's because he's got to figure something out hitting.
So let me ask you guys all this. Knowing what we know right now about Andrew Vaughn and Brian Ramos, who's got the brighter major league future?
Andrew Vaughn.
Today, I actually looked up some stats, and it was very concerning. How long are the White Sox going to give Andrew how long's Andrew's leash?
Well, that's the question. I mean, because he's had quite a bit of a leash already. Jay?
Brian Ramos, landslide.
I think Brian Ramos today, just because I compare the numbers. There was a guy that they ran out of town. His name was Diane Visario.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he got run out of town. Andrew's numbers are actually worse than Diane when you look at the makeup of it.
The power numbers for sure.
The power numbers for sure. I just think that position is such a prime position in the big leagues, and it's a position where there's a lot of options with guys that can hit, and you're like, okay, we'll put anybody there at first base. I think that his time frame of failing is so much shorter than Brian's. Brian Ramos, I got 5 years to see what he's got. Andrew Vaughn is at the end of that 5 years. This year could be, and it's sad to say, but if he doesn't perform for the rest of this season, he might go from being an everyday player just from like the team playing him there to just becoming a backup and then trying to figure it out.
He's going to become a Tampa Bay Ray. He'll be a platoon player, and he'll be one of the most valuable platoon players in the American League.
That could possibly happen. He'll hit one side pitching and just play 190, 95 games, 100 games, and he'll probably hit 290 and hit 25 doubles, and everyone's going to love him.
So before we keep going, I know you want to make a point on Vaughn versus Ramos. This podcast is live from Little Joe's in Little Italy. We're on 1041 Taylor Street, 1041 Taylor Street, and this show tonight brought to you by El Bandito Tequila, brought to you by Christopher Chelios himself. And shout out to our guy KG, who is hosting us and pouring us shots of tequila. So here we go. Salud. Cheers to you, Gonzo. Cheers to all the degenerates at the bar listening to us talk BS about the White Sox. And cheers to you and you.
Cheers. I got a Heineken 0-0.
El Bandito Tequila, available pretty much anywhere, right? You can get it at Benny's and stuff. But come to Little Joe's and get yourself some El Bandito. Cheers.
By the way, it is a bar, but the food is actually outstanding. Just had the Philly cheesesteak. I'm over 240, so I've had a lot of Philly cheesesteaks in my lifetime. Wow. Really good. If I was rating Philly cheesesteaks, it would get a very high rating. Might be something I start on the side.
I'm not gonna let you guys off the hook. Like, we're rating Andrew Vaughn as an everyday player, and you're not gonna get the top value from his skill set with him playing every day. Because Gonzo pacifies and apologizes for Andrew Vaughn playing every day. Like, him playing in the outfield should have no bearing on his offensive numbers whatsoever, considering the fact that you're hitting in the same lineup around the same group of guys. You're building your consistency. That's his calling card, being Andrew Vaughn every day. So whether he's playing the outfield every day or first base every day, you're putting him in an environment to survive. In regards to Brian Ramos, I feel like He's a comparison to a guy named Jonathan Scope, a second baseman with third base properties. I don't know if the power is going to play, but if he's going to continue to be in somebody's lineup every day giving you professional at-bats, he's going to be on the field, and he's not going to hurt you defensively at all. So I think if the White Sox are smart, they'll try to put Brian Ramos in a Jonathan Scope role instead of trying to turn him into Miguel Tejada or whatever they thought they were getting out of Melvin Mora. You have a chance to mold the perfect role player for that infield, especially considering the fact that Moncada's future is gone. We know how his story ends, and that ends financially. So Brian Ramos has a chance, not only at third base, but at second base too, as the right-handed thump in that lineup.
He should be playing every day.
Yes.
Yeah, he should be playing every day from now on.
I wouldn't have said that 2 years ago, but I'm saying it now.
Today he needs to play every day, just like Corey Lee needs to be playing as much as possible, just because you could see what these guys could do in the big leagues. Because again, Andrew Vaughn, now that we're stuck on the Andrew Vaughn case, Andrew Vaughn, we cannot say that it was because of lack of playing that he didn't get a shot to show us what he had. He's been playing since day one. Like, yes. Jose Abreu, signs elsewhere, and Andrew Vaughn is given the job. They never asked him to platoon with Gavin Sheets, which at the time a lot of people thought that it was a good idea. Developed them both. And the problem with Andrew Vaughn has been, it's not just the power. Is that if Andrew Vaughn hits 300 and with a high on base percentage, because he's walking with a low strikeout rate, 20 home runs looks great, because 20 home runs, 20 doubles, and playing every day, you're going to be happy about that. But his average is below 260.
Yeah.
He's not walking enough. He is striking out at a higher rate. So you're not being the player that you were supposed to be, and you're failing at trying to be the player that you're not. So that's where they go and look at other options. And that's where I think Brian Ramos' future, his runway is a lot longer than Andrew's.
Yeah, I just want to say, the down parts with Andrew Vaughn is, like you mentioned, the strikeout rate, but also the ground ball rate. He has a low center of gravity, so he's going to put the ball on the carpet more times than he's going to beat it out. You're losing a lot of value with the hardest hit balls coming off the bat, considering they're going to be double plays. They're going to be one-hot rockets. With the White Sox not being able to create runs and steal bases, they're putting Andrew Vaughn on an island to where he's going to have to fight for his life for any bit of production every day. It sucks.
I mean, it doesn't help that really nobody else in the lineup is hitting either. So everyone's kind of forcing it at the plate, which is the last thing that you want to do. I mean, outside of DeYoung, who's in a groove? I mean, Tommy Pham has put up some good ABs since. Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. Takes 2 weeks for Benintendi to have one good game.
Are his legs rested? That's all I want to know.
Wow. Gonzo can answer that.
So Ray the Barber, our guy, has a pretty funny comment. Don't try to make sense of Pedro Grifol's lineups. He just picks them out of a hat, which would make sense. Pedrolytics, yes. Batting fourth is optional, just like batting eighth is also optional. What's not optional is not coming to Little Joe's to support this incredible bar and drinking El Bandito tequila. Shout out to El Bandito and Chris Chelios. Do you have any final thoughts on Brian Ramos? I know you do. I shouldn't have asked.
Well, I hope Pedro Grifol doesn't bat him eighth for the rest of his stint here at the big league level. But I'm just happy that he's starting off his MLB career on a good foot, and hopefully he takes Ozzie Guillen Jr.'s opportunity at playing Venezuela in the winter so he can have further growth in his game. But at the same time, to wrap it up on Andrew Vaughn, he's starting to see the ball better, and he hit his first home run of the season over the weekend, so it's okay. The whole roster's late. So at the same time, he got that first home run off the board. He's starting to see the ball. Hopefully he gets his numbers up above his average for his career. And we'll see what happens at the deadline for him and the rest of the roster.
I promise there's a fourth member of this podcast. Justin just doesn't want to squeeze in too tight to Junior to get on camera.
I respect people's space.
This was supposed to be an outdoor podcast. Mother Nature said F you guys. And there's no game to talk about. But look at us up on the TVs. We're so beautiful.
Hi, Mom.
TV adds 25 pounds.
And when you're bearded, it's not so great. The other thing I wanted to hit on as far as recent topics with the White Sox is Michael Kopech's role. And I know Gonzo still thinks he's the number 2 starting pitcher. But do you consider him the full-time closer now? And do you feel confident with him in that role?
I think if anybody else was the manager, he would be the full-time closer. When you're a closer, you're going to blow games, but you're going to save games. When he is on, the movement on his balls, and this is when you guys can go and look up the analytics, the numbers look amazing. He's one of those guys that when he attacks the zone, he did it against Cleveland. Literally every ball down the middle of the plate, meaning hit me or get yourself out. And that's what I like in those type of relievers. I think he's got the emotions for it. I think he's got the chip on his shoulder. I know I'm saying a lot of cliche things from like the old mentality of baseball, but I really do think that he's the type of guy that likes being in the game every day. Like either I fail or I succeed, but I'm in it every day. He doesn't have to have a lot of time thinking in between games. But I think that he would be the everyday closer if he was another team. I actually think he's also the biggest chip on the White Sox trading board. He's there depending on what day you ask, he's 1 or 3. Again, depending where Pantera is, obviously he's always going to be 1. But I think out of the pitchers, I think it's very, for what people look for in the run to a postseason, Michael Kopech could be a great guy out of the bullpen. I don't think he's a starter. I don't think they should even flirt with that for a long time, because he could be a very successful closer.
I think for the first time in my life, the White Sox should copy the Kansas City Royals, and look how they're handling James McArthur, a guy that has trouble with the home run, but he's even in a blown save situation. Let's just say he blows a save Monday, he still gets the opportunity Tuesday and Wednesday, because that's the way they handle things in the bullpen. I think Michael Kopech will benefit from some consistency, and you're not going to get continuity on a team like this. But if you do, as a manager, have an opportunity to get a guy like that in a specific role, in a niche, you should take advantage of that, because Michael Kopech is, in fact, in his head, and when you get a chance to get him a routine, get him to calm himself down, I think him being the everyday closer could be one of the few things that could save his career and get you to scratch his ceiling more, giving him some of that consistency.
I mean, my question is just, can you throw strikes consistently enough to be a closer? Because if you're not striking out however many guys per 9 innings, and your stuff's not good enough to overcome walks, then you just don't really have closer stuff. He has closer stuff, but is it plus stuff to where you can overcome some of those walks? And I know you got some thoughts on Kopech too.
Yeah, no, I feel Brian Bannister. I believe Brian Bannister was brought here for a reason, and he has complete oversight of the pitching staff. And if he believed that Michael Kopech had a shot, he'd still be in the rotation. So the fact that he's in the bullpen, and honestly, it's pretty much true to this point. That's where he should be. His velocity is back up from where it was when he was a starter in the rotation. He's got more command of his off speed with his sliders in the zone now, more command at least. And I think we're seeing the best out of him now that he's in the bullpen. However, he should be a solidified closer at this very moment. I can't figure out why Pedro hasn't put him there yet, because he keeps putting Brebbia and everyone else in there. But however,
Trade value, trade value.
Trade value of everybody else too. But for the fact that Kopech should be there, honestly, that's going to be most of his value where it's going to be going forward. And for the Sox sake, we've already seen rumors of all the other Hensley and St. Louis, Presley and Houston. Nightingale put that tweet out there for a rumor of guys already available before the trade deadline 2 months prior here. So the fact that those names are being put out there, hopefully Kopech keeps rising his value as a closer and gets us, some more value besides some other pieces like Fetty, maybe Robert. We'll get to that in a minute here, but there's some pieces there that should be negotiated coming up, and hopefully Kopech has gotten that value up there so we can get the most value out of him.
And to the White Sox advantage, I think Michael Kopech is a type of pitcher where he was drafted, the makeup that he had at the signing, and the stuff that he has stuff-wise on the ball and the analytics, when you look at them, even teams, if they don't think that he can close now, they're going to look at him and say, I can fix him. He's an Andrew Sisco type of guy. When you look at them and you say,
you're showing your age right now.
Well, he was that guy. Like,
That's not a good comparison.
No, well, hopefully for Kopech's sake, it's not. But Andrew Sisco was a guy that you would see him throwing, and you would say, if I can fix his walk issues, he could be the greatest closer we've had in a long time. Well, the White Sox took a shot at him just because when they fixed Matt Thornton, they thought they could do the same with Sisco. but they couldn't. But again, that's something on the player side. Michael Kopech's going to be that guy that he's got the stuff-wise that we'll see him always trying to get somebody to fix him just because he is that nasty, throws that hard. But I liked what I've seen. People are worried about, is he going to blow the game? You could blow the game with a home run, which I'm okay with. Don't blow the game by walking 4 guys.
Yeah, I mean, and you got a guy like Jordan Leisure who can bail you out in situations to where, let's just say, Kopech is having a 22-pitch save opportunity. You can just bring in Leisure to put the fire out. It's not the end of the world if you're Pedro Grifol 7th, 8th, 9th inning, considering the fact that you got at least 2 guys that can handle that. You just have to make them fit. I do not think Jordan Leisure should be getting any save opportunities with the Chicago White Sox at all. He's a great... No, at all. Period. I think if the White Sox are careful, they could turn him into like a Michael King. I see Jordan Leisure as a Michael King. He could be a hybrid. I don't want him to settle into a closer role because then that limits the amount of versatility you can have with him. Especially, this is Rob Manfred's league. You're going to have bullpen days. If Jordan Leisure can give you 4 innings and still give you an opportunity for a hold in the weekend, that's leverage. That is how you keep guys like Kopech fresh, because we're talking about his trade value now. You have to think about what the roster is going to look like after he's gone. You do not want to put Jordan Leisure in a situation to where you're just isolating his talent and not taking advantage of his versatility.
Also, be very good for arbitration. Saves equal money. The more opportunities they give him in the closing situation, Mr. Leisure will ask for more money later on. So they don't have to play that game with him right now. But I think actually talking about positives, I think if you look since the start of the season, he is in the top 4 maybe of positive things that the White Sox have had. I would say South Korean Cy Young, Mr. Fetty, number 1, and he might there be flirting with the being the second guy surprise wise.
Best war right now too.
Yeah, for the pitchers. So I think unless Brian Ramos again develops the way that he's showing he's going to develop, if we take at the end of the season a couple positive things, I think he'll be there with a friendly contract. Just in general, he's done really well. I know that he's just feeding me stats. He wants to. By the way, last week's show, he wrote and said, no, was it last week? I tweeted something, and he wrote me and said, I wouldn't mind him getting extended.
Who?
He said that he wouldn't mind Leisure getting extended.
Really?
Yeah.
State your case.
Oh, Leisure stuff, plays for itself. He just needs to be given more innings here. I don't know why they have been limited in his innings, but like what you were saying, or Justin, what you said when we trade Kopech, Leisure should be the closer. So you got to put him as a setup man now to build him up, and then by the time you trade Kopech, he's ready for that role.
What's your rebuttal?
Well, yeah, like I don't want him permanently to be the closer, but in the situation where Kopech's traded, that's inevitably going to happen. Now, you have an avenue to where you can bring in another guy behind Leisure to save him, or you can be like, okay, this is your role right now. How many saves can you give me in 20 opportunities? We'll go through the numbers because, like you said, OJ, saves equal arbitration dollars. And if you're the White Sox, you don't want to financially play yourself into paying a guy like Jordan Leisure when you're only a 72-win team anyway.
My point on that is I'm not signing anyone to any type of extension. If they have not learned from that, I don't care how big the prospect is. I don't care what his potential is. You risk it, and if the guy's going to be worth a lot more money down the road, then you pay him that money down the road. But getting sneaky like we try to do it with Moncada and Eloy and those guys, that's a very risky thing to do, and I don't think they should do it again.
So my question with Leisure, I always wonder if he's not getting the innings we think he should be, what's the reason why? Is it talent evaluation from the staff? Because obviously the front office thinks highly enough of him to trade for him. But, I mean, his peripheral numbers are not great. 11 strikeouts in 16 innings. 6 walks. Like, that's not a great K-to-walk ratio. His 2.20 ERA is sexy, sure, but I don't, at least in my opinion, the stuff that we heard about in the trade or after the trade has not been the stuff that I've seen from him so far in the big leagues. I don't know if any of you guys agree.
I just believe that since he wasn't given a role from the get-go, he's been used very spotty. So he hasn't had that confidence from the get-go to really show that, thrive off his stuff, because the stuff is there early on. But since he's been so spotty, there's no confidence to grow from that.
Before Jay gives his point, you don't lose stuff because you were spotty positioned. You could be drinking at a bar. Hold on. You could be drinking at a bar at 4 a.m. and someone tells you go throw. If your stuff's nasty, your stuff's nasty. His stuff wise, and again, I'm not jinxing anybody. The first time I saw the stuff and his stuff wasn't there, I'm going to say something that Don Cooper used to say. Oh, yeah, we told him not to throw 95 when he got here. We told him throw 85 and nitpick on pitches. He used to say that when they bring guys in and they were supposed to be throwing a certain speed and the gun wasn't there, he'd tell the front office, oh, yeah, we're telling them not to throw hard because we're dumb. I think injury, I would think injury, which hopefully it's not the case, or some things might have changed in his demeanor, but the stuff-wise, like when you look at just pure analytics and stuff-wise, is not the guy that they traded for.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I don't want him saving games, because he doesn't miss enough bats. Jordan Leisure has an arm to, let's just say, keep inherited runners scoring. So from scoring. So more of a Yanier Cano, more like a Jason Adam. He's not a typical closer to where I need 3 outs with 8 swings and misses sometimes. You're not going to get that from Jordan Leisure at all. You would get more value with him stranding runners, I think.
From the way that he explains and breaks that down, I cannot understand how he's such a bad fantasy player.
I got Josh Hader and Andre Smooth. That's why.
It's just hard to look. Again, though, I think that looking at
names out of his ass.
He's pulling names. Again, great comparisons. And again, this is going to be part of the blackout. We're going to have receipts. Gonzo loves Leisure. He wants to extend him for 6 years. Jay obviously has a point on it. And Slocco and I are like, where's the stuff? Again, you don't need stuff sometimes to get out. So whatever works for him and whatever works for him to get paid and do well for the White Sox, so be it. By the way, the whole thing about Bannister, do you guys think Bannister's coming down from the front office and working with guys, like telling him how to hold pitches and doing that? Do you guys really think that? Because everyone's like, oh, Bannister's project. I'm like, Bannister's not doing any of that.
Lab though, right?
A lab? Whose lab?
A Bannister's lab, apparently.
That's the first I've heard about it. I know that he knows pitching, but he hasn't been here long enough to like implement. His effect's going to be for guys they draft and the way that those guys get developed. If somebody got traded here, even though the pitching coach, the guys working with him, the person's already grown. There's only so many changes you can make.
So for me, as far as what you're saying, stuff, I got to disagree. The stuff is there. It's just the strike, more so the walks. The walks are and the stats are inflated because from the beginning, the Ks and strikeout or the Ks are there and the walks were low. But for the past 2 outings is when the walks went up and the Ks went down. So for me, because of the lack of opportunity, just inflates what the stats look like.
Ethan Katz will fix him. 11 strikeouts in 16 innings is just not, it's not plus stuff. You cannot inflate or deflate on 2 outings. 16 innings and 11 strikeouts is just not.
Are they intentional walks? What does inflated walks mean? So that's a first one. So inflated walks means would be like Pedro asked for intentional walks to happen. And, or they left them out there to hang and eat 9 innings because they didn't have a bullpen. I'll give you an example. Jairo Iriarte, Venezuelan pitcher that came from San Diego. Go look at his strikeout to walk ratio. If he pitches 9 innings, it's 1-1. If he pitches 1 inning, it's 1-1. Correct. And any level that he's pitched, you look at it. So you can't say that something's inflated. What he is doing right now is succeeding without missing bats. Okay, and this is where analytics guys get in trouble because they say, well, if you don't miss bats, you suck. But then when somebody that's doing good, that's not missing bats, you're like, wait, can you explain this? And then they're like, well, and they start giving you the workaround. There's different ways to succeed in this league. I just think that they have options. Again, they're developing this year. He's a guy that's positive there. I hope that my biggest concern, you guys are worried about him not being exposed as much. I think that he gets brought in a lot of situations. I wish that we had some consistency with him. Is he going to be a 4 inning guy and going, or is he going to be a setup guy? I like consistency. Again, that's just my thought process. But he's a positive in the pen. And another guy that you guys think he might be here. What happened if the White Sox decide to flip him? He's another option that could be flipped. It doesn't necessarily have to stay here, because do you think you're going to win in the next 2 years? Maybe they don't think they are, so he might be a big piece that they can move.
Let me see. I just want to say, like Gonzo, just to talk about the 6 walks in 11 innings, 16 innings or something like that. Lets me know a reliever that pitches to contact and has that volume of walks in that short amount of time, he's not putting guys away when the catcher is calling the A+ pitch. Those are the battles that he's losing. He's not wild enough to say where he's going 3-1, 3-0 counts on guys. No, it's the 2-2 counts that gets to 3-2, and now he's out of the zone. With a guy like Jordan Leisure, if you put a man in the closer role like that, you're a 3-run homer away every night. Every night. Because he's inviting contact.
I think you just nailed it. That's, to me, what you want in a closer, is a guy who has plus stuff and can overcome when he doesn't have the best command, because his stuff is either enticing enough to chase. When Liam Hendricks got in trouble, for example, it was just when they knew, okay, fastball's coming and it's going to be down the dick. And that's the only time he gave.
Home run,
exactly. Right. But he never walked anybody. That's my concern with a guy like Kopech, or even Leisure to an extent. We still don't know yet. But walks for the closer, or just base runners for the closer, you have to be able to overcome that with plus stuff. And I just, to this point, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have it. Leisure, I just haven't seen it from him yet. That's just my thoughts on it. Oh, we got nachos. Let's get KG on the mic real quick. Tell us what we got. Oh, no, come on, you gotta tell us.
Loaded nachos.
Loaded nachos. This looks freaking delicious. There's meats and cheeses and guac and avocado and salsa. 7 layers of goodness. We are live, by the way, at Little Joe's, 1041 West Taylor Street. Someone hold the microphone so I can show this.
Hopefully Jerry doesn't get mad that I'm eating on the camera.
Wow. You're not gonna be able to do play-by-play no more.
I'm gonna eat on the video. White Sox fans like that.
I knew you wanted to be Jason Benetti.
There is nothing like having a podcast where everyone's going. So thanks again to Kevin for hosting us here at Little Joe's. Shout out to Chris Chelios for his El Bandito tequila for sponsoring tonight's episode. We hope that you subscribe on YouTube to the Guillen Grid and to the Blackout Show. Gonzo, myself, Ozzy Jr.,
The guy who's hiding.
Justin, who just refuses to stay on camera. We like to shoot the shit and talk baseball. It's a bad team to talk about, but that's okay, because we have tequila.
Moncada's coming back. Like, you people keep skipping over the fact that Yohan Moncada is on his way back, and you're all doom and gloom.
Well, I think it's the best thing for Pedro Grifol and the Chicago White Sox.
Yes.
Because, by the way, Moncada is still 3rd in the best WAR, and he's been out for a month, 2 months?
He's played like 4 games.
Well, I think that he's coming back to play for his future, meaning I know that he's made more money than most normal people in their whole lives. In the grand scheme of things in a baseball world, he hasn't even scratched the surface. He's playing for a contract for next year, probably not his option from the White Sox, but he's playing for a job. He's playing for the opportunity for him to have an invite to spring training or sign for a couple $2 million. Because you don't want to fall in the situation where Tim Anderson fell, where he didn't have a good year. And then teams, they pay for you for what you're worth now, not what you did before. So for Moncada, if people have ever had a doubt if he cared about playing, trust me, if he's cared at some point, it's going to be right now, because he's obviously getting paid on what he's going to be playing these last couple months.
Yeah, he's transitioning into the second part of his career. Now, the game of baseball is funny. You could be better at the age of 35 than you were at 28. I've seen it happen. You just got to make sure that you're putting yourself in line with your skills.
Give me an example.
Fernando Tatis Sr.
His son just passed him in career home runs.
Really? Wow, that's quick. That's sick. He's on my fantasy team.
I get what you're saying. Guys produce better for winning teams. I think that Moncada, because of his defense, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think he should come back and try to play second to make himself more valuable in the trade deadline and show teams he can play second and third and then bring that bat as a second baseman. A lot more sexier than being a third baseman and having those numbers.
But will he agree to do it?
No.
I don't think it's even, people have this mistake of him agreeing or not. You just put him there.
He doesn't have a choice.
He doesn't have a choice. He's not going to be here in the future. You know, if you could be like, hey, you want that big option? Well, you better play second base because you're not even going to consider it. So I think that for him, I think it's the best thing he could do. Helps the team out and then helps himself out.
Another guy that was better at 35 than 28, Raul Ibanez.
Okay.
Okay.
Steroids might have impacted that.
Can we not have somebody that's not been enhanced? And again, by the way, it's like, oh, what era were these guys better at when they were older? Oh, the 90s.
Yeah. I wonder why.
I wonder what era they were playing in. Look at this guy. He's so much better now as he got older. No, but again, I think Moncada, for him personally, I think that he's athletic enough to make the transition. It would help the team. I think for him, they got to talk to him and say, this is where Pedro has to be the skipper. Okay? And when you're the skipper, even if you're a bad skipper, or whatever one thinks about you as a skipper, you're still a skipper. So you tell Moncada and say, hey, man, if you're going to be in this lineup and you want to get the at-bats that you want, you're going to play whatever position we put you in. And if you don't like it, you're going to get benched. And that's what guys do, and you end up being famous like Ozzy and Nick Swisher's war that's been like 20 years post them even being at a team together. You know, they don't like each other. It's because Ozzy wanted something from Nick. Nick didn't want to give it to Ozzy. They couldn't agree, and Ozzy didn't play him because Ozzy was not scared that Nick would be pouting in the bench. And again, they moved away from him the next year. That's what they cannot be scared with Moncada. And you're in a situation where he is not going to probably come back. So you don't have to deal with this guy for the next 4 years of making him mad. So I think Pedro's is a win-win situation. Like right now, Pedro Grifol has to be careful how he deals with Brian Ramos. Why? Well, Brian Ramos is probably going to be here longer than Pedro Grifol. So he needs to be like, well, I need to get this guy on my side. Let's not ruffle his feathers. Way different with Moncada. If anything, I'm giving him tough love because I'm like, we're losing because you guys didn't produce. You guys have a lot of, you could now do something for me and the team. So I would think if they think second base is better, put him at second.
You said Pedro Grifol is in a win-win situation, which is the first and only time anyone has ever verbalized that.
Probably.
Because he himself is a lose-lose situation as a manager.
As a match.
Okay, but to your point, I understand what you're saying. There's not many win-win situations with this organization or with Grifol, period, in general.
But there could be. Here, no, hold on. So here's the thing. That's not because the situations for him to be a win-win are not there. And that's why I've been so critical of his managerial style and the way that he is. It's like, for example, if he hits Brian Ramos, and by the way, Brian Ramos needs to be like Joe Creedy, 6th or 7th. Let's hide him. If you put him to hit there every day and you're developing him, no one's ever going to judge you and say, why is he struggling? But if you hit him 4th 2 weeks in a row and he struggles, people are going to think that you're an idiot as a manager. Bringing him in at his major league debut as a defensive replacement, another dumb move. So he does moves of like, oh, why don't you play Corey Lee at catcher every day? That could be a win-win for him. He's the one that self-sabotages his win-wins and goes completely off the realm. And that's something. I'll give you another example. Clevenger. Gonzo and I were talking about here. I didn't realize Clevenger had not gone the 5 innings and got the win. Was it really that hard, Pedro, to let the guy go one more out?
3-1 game, though. If
Again,
it was 6-1, I understand.
Correct. You can argue that, but those little things are like when the win-win of like you're trying to, get the guys get on your side. Again, he could get away with that because he's lost so many games. So what's another one to the losing record? Those win-wins for him, he makes it so hard on himself. Like even on games that he has a great managerial day, and you're like, man, Pedro did a pretty good job managing-wise. Then comes a post-game. And it gets completely destroyed of just like your thought process. So that's the hard part because it's like, oh, he had a good game. Oh, he did something really good. And then the next part, he goes and ruins it.
You're doing this after he had the best season out of your staff last year.
Correct.
A veteran arm. Why not give him that last out?
Correct.
And to go to what you were just saying about Brian Ramos, put him 7th, 8th. With how patient he is at the plate, that only makes the bottom of your lineup that much more dangerous to turn around to the top of the lineup.
Well, I have a joke with when he makes the lineups, Nicky Lopez, and they should always be 8th and 9th. Like that's how you should start making the lineup. Unless the young is there hitting wise, those guys should be in the bottom, including Corey Lee, because the mistake is this. And I'll give you an example. When Ozzie came over to the White Sox, their projection was Joe Creedy would be a top 3 hitter, maybe 4. And Ozzie was like, maybe in the future, but today he's a 7th hitter. So why am I going to put him to hit in those spots and going to cost us and cost himself money because he won't produce? That's the way I see it now. Maybe Brian Ramos in 5 years is the best 4th hitter in the American League. It could be. But today, that's a better opportunity for him to succeed. Just like I hate Gavin Sheets hitting second. Why? I don't think he's going to be able to see the best pitches in that spot in the lineup. So those quirkiness of why he does certain things, again, each manager has them. Ozzie had him when he was managing. Some of them are easier to critique than others, but that's why he doesn't have the win-win because, again, regardless of what anybody says, Mike Clevenger was your best pitcher. You guys doubled down and went and got him again. I also think that win, even though people don't care about wins, makes it look better in the trade deadline. So little things like that. Again, he won the game, so which was a success.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Pedro Grifol make me sick to my stomach.
That's not nice.
No, well, by the third inning, like Mike Clevenger went 4 1/3, correct? 4 2/3.
Yes.
By the third inning, he was in line for the win, and he was the best pitcher in the building. Off rip, he's supposed to at least qualify for an inning, qualify for a win. You as a manager, that's a baseball rule. If my pitcher is going, get him the win. Get him the win. Mike had a tough start at Tampa last time, and he flipped it at the rate, and you couldn't even reward him with a decision. That's not even bad managing. That's bad baseball know-how. Like, that's disrespectful to the game. Because no matter who you were going to call through those bullpen doors in left field, they wasn't going to spin the ball as good as Mike was spinning it the 3rd and 4th inning.
So I'm going to give you something real quick on the way baseball players think. And this is not analytics. Analytics cannot measure this. If you give Mike Clevenger the opportunity to win the game there, any pitcher there, that you go out of your way for a player to succeed, like in work, they let you go to your kid's play recital a little early. Yeah. The day your boss asks you to stay late a little bit, you're going to say, yeah, man, I'm going to stay late because my boss had my back. That's how it works in baseball. The day that Mike Clevenger has to eat some innings and you're there in the pitching mound and you're looking at the dugout like, okay, am I going to get sacrificed? If the team has not done nothing for Mike Clevenger, he will come off that mound very unhappy. Yeah. But if the team has gone above and beyond, you say, you know what? The team has had my back. I'm going to have my team's back. And that's where I critique Pedro of, you can be really bad at the X's and O's, but you can be really good at the management of like people and like your players and be successful. And that Yos, I thought Renteria was like that. You don't have to be a genius X's and O's type of manager to be successful. Even the little things like that he can actually win because they're not getting measured on the standings, yeah. He's not winning. Yeah. And that's the point that I'm like, those are so easy to understand and get that when he doesn't get them, makes me second guess him. And if he is down the road, as if he's going to develop himself into the manager that he was once, sold on to be. That's the reality of it. Because his improvement, talking completely away from the standings, because again, the talent's not all there, he hasn't really improved much even in that sense.
So I guess the one counterpoint to that is the manager that he was sold to be he was sold snake oil to Rick Hahn. Okay, that's the problem.
So I have a question. What manager was he sold to be?
Well, you tell me. You came up with the line. So what he was sold to be by the organization was someone who's going to be smart, accountable. Okay, whatever he said to Rick Hahn in the interview process, he clearly convinced them of something.
So I know exactly what you said. So when he bring this up it's funny. Slacko knows a lot more intel and info and stories than most people. He's one of Ozzie's golf buddies. No, but it was when Ozzie got called to be told that he wasn't the manager, the description of this guy that was coming in was, wow, okay, the next greatest manager is coming to the White Sox. And the people around baseball that now we know, why they were saying it, because there's friendships involved, were selling this guy like, this guy's not going to mess up the X's and O's. Like this guy's just going to have a very short time of figuring it out, and he's going to get it. And if he fails, it's because he didn't have a good team. I'm getting the complete opposite, because if he was that great manager, like I thought Rick Renteria at one point was like, Rick's not going to mess up a team that is good. He's not going to manage himself out of a job. Today, Pedro, the way that he handles the team and the lineups, I think if you have a good team, he could be a hindrance, like he could be an issue to the team.
Well, and we spoke briefly about Gavin Sheets. Like, there's no way Gavin Sheets should be batting second in the major leagues. He should be batting cleanup for a team like the White Sox. You're grooming and you're trying to, because you got to think, Slavko.
Five or six.
There's no left. He's the only left-handed power in the organization.
He should hit everywhere but second. He looks awkward at second.
Yeah, like he's basically he's a first base outfield DH profile that you're putting in a contact situation. That's a recipe for disaster for anybody not named Juan Soto. So if you're Pedro Grifol and you're trying to look at the numbers, there is no metric you could look at to say where we should put Gavin Sheets in a second spot. Even if you want him to see more pitches, you're giving him more. He's going to have to see more strikes, more volume to the pitches that are going to get him out at number 2, because he's automatically has to be out number 2 in the first inning. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, okay, if he's batting cleanup, if somebody get on, he'll get a chance at the plate. If he's batting 2, he's automatically going to get attacked. And you're setting him up for disaster, considering there's no protection in the lineup.
Well, the part I don't get is that Grifol doesn't run. Because if he ran with the guys that were leading off, you could say, well, he's going to see more fastballs. I think the part that's funny is if you want him to see more pitches, then make him the leadoff and have like an Anthony Rizzo type of, and you can be like,
Hal Schwarber.
I'm just saying, you can say, oh, I saw Joe Madden do it once, and then people are like, oh, it's not out of this world. But like when you go, and this is a part that's hard, and it's really hard in baseball, because it's kind of wrong the way that you look at it. If you don't have the credibility, there's certain things you can't get away with. I'll give you an example. If anyone else had walked a guy like Tony La Russa did, they would have probably walked down in the middle of the game and said, we need to talk. You're mentally, something's wrong, you're getting fired. Anybody. There's only like Bruce Bochy, Tony, a very small group of people that can do that. Everybody else would have been reprimanded. Pedro makes moves like he is Sparky Anderson. Because there's moves that you can make that you're like, oh, Bruce Bochy makes moves, and you're like, oh, that's okay, that's Boch. Boch makes those moves because he's got the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't. And that's the part where I think that he doesn't get that. Like, going back, the press conference. When you are a manager, Joe Madden was he was an artist at it. You say a lot, but you don't say anything. He could get away with it because he was Joe Madden. And it was like he earned that spot. Same thing with Tony La Russa. When you're in your first 2 years managing and you have not even won 100 games in combined seasons, you don't have that leverage to get away with.
So, and it's crazy you brought that up, because like one thing I look for in different managerial candidates, like Buck Showalter always draws the best lineup card of the day, period. John Farrell, old Red Sox manager, always knew how to line up the bullpen in the rotation. He had the pitching staff on lock. Pedro Grifol doesn't have a calling card. Joe Torre had Major League Baseball and his owners in his pocket on a whim. Like, Pedro Grifol doesn't have an ace in the hole right now. And we're seeing him direct information like he holds all the cards. Like, what are you talking about, Pedro? You're sitting here. We got Corey Lee finally batting over 280. And he's still the second catcher behind Martin Maldonado, who, in fact, has an OPS closer to my goddamn, man, I can't even talk. My IQ, 12. It's like, what are you thinking? Like, there is no way that a guy like Martin Maldonado should be commanding the bats over Corey Lee. Why isn't Oscar Colas in right field if you have a graveyard there? Like, come on.
Wait, did you guys see so this is a part... And again, I watch everything.
We're spending way too much time on Pedro.
No, correct. No, but this is but it's concerning because you're developing every aspect of the team for the future. The other day, Maldonado was catching, and they were talking of Corey Lee, and he went out of his way to tell the media, oh, by the way, Martin Maldonado was the catcher. Like, he goes out of his way to like to protect or like show that Maldonado's doing good. If I would have been the media member, I would have been like, I didn't ask you about Martin Maldonado. I could care less about Martin Maldonado. Let me hear about Corey Lee. And those are the situations where if he was consistent all the way through, I'll give you an example on Rick Renteria. Rick Renteria was too close to the players. That was his negative. But we knew what kind of manager Rick was. You know, when his guys played hard for him, he wasn't the best, he wasn't the worst, but we knew who he was. We're still trying to figure out who Pedro is, and that's why we keep talking about him week in and week out.
I, for one, got to admit, I was wrong on Corey Lee. Between his pop time and that bat, he's definitely your backup to Cuero when he gets here. But Cuero and Corey Lee, they're the 1-2 for the catchers here on the south side. Corey has been solid with.
Where's he playing?
Gonzo's had a few too many blackout cocktails, I think.
You see it?
What's wrong with Cuero? Hold on. What's wrong with Cuero?
Go ahead.
Why do you make Gonzo? So why is Corey Lee Cuero's backup and not the other way around?
Yeah. So what Junior said is, why is Corey Lee Edgar Cuero's backup when Edgar Cuero hasn't achieved anything in the bigs yet that Corey Lee, for a small sample size this year, has?
Again, I'm just projecting there because you're very right, Junior. At this moment, Corey Lee's the man. But again, to begin the season, we paid Maldonado that much money. He should be the guy playing a whole lot better than Corey Lee. However, this is the plan. The plan is that Cuero is going to be here in 25 and be your catcher in the future. I'm believing in Getz because he's the one that made the deal. Well, I'm sure, you know, Han obviously made that deal, but Getz signed off on it with where he was at.
I'm going to go with Cuero like every other prospect. He's a prospect. And until he comes to the big leagues and shows it that he can do in the big leagues, I'm not going to have somebody that's actually doing it in the big leagues be above him. Have you guys seen Cuero's lower body?
No.
Okay.
That's none of my business. I'm a man.
Well, you should look at it because his body
Tell us more.
his body looks like Salvador Perez right now, not when he was a kid. I mean, he's got a little weight problem down there.
Oh my God.
His buttocks and his legs are a little bit too much in barriguita.
Thicker than a Snicker.
Thicker than a Snicker. There are things out there that, again, people don't think it's a big deal until they come to the big leagues, and now they're not playing. By the way, the Eloy Jimenez story has come out multiple times, that the White Sox knew about all these injury-prone situations when he was with the Cubs, and it wasn't something that was hidden. I heard somebody say it was one of the worst medical records they had ever seen for a minor leaguer on, like, nagging injuries. But the team knew this and said, we're going to go for it. Those are things that, looking back, you said, we might have made the wrong move just because we had the info. When I look at Cuero, I said, yes, I see potential, but I also have to think like a general manager and say, there are things that he's probably going to have to fix and adapt. Corey Lee, if you're saying that he's going to be here in 25, that means Corey Lee's going to have 3 years on him in the big leagues of calling games and hitting. So unless Cuero comes out and he's Buster Posey, to making him the guy right away might be a little bit dangerous.
I mean, Corey Lee, though, could be the DH of the future, and I hate to just like diminish the catching capabilities. And yes, if Edgar Cuero is your everyday catcher behind the plate, that makes sense. Corey Lee, pop time be damned, whatever. Like, you have to see it. Can he call pitches? Can he call games? Can he work with a pitching staff? There's more to catching than just framing.
Well, Miguel Olivo is a catcher, so can anybody call a game? So here's the part that's funny. So Slacco, by the way, the reason Miguel Olivo was not the catcher in 2005 for the White Sox, and it wasn't because he couldn't hit or didn't have skills, was because he couldn't call a game and had the worst memory ever. They would tell him, don't throw first pitch changeup, and he would go and call first pitch changeup. So it was a learning disability that he had in the catching position. That's why he's not there, and that's why he didn't become the player that we thought he'd become. But it's funny Slacco mentioned this. That's actually one of Ozzie Guillen's like managerial quirks that he's trying to prove. He's actually trying to do it in winter ball. Can I have my backup catcher be my DH and carry 3 guys that can technically have a catcher's glove, but he can be the backup catcher? And he brought it up to me and said, Had Jermaine Mercedes been had I been the manager or the GM at the time when Jermaine Mercedes was here, I would have made him catch even a little bit, because with his power and the way that he delivers, having him as a backup catcher, with a catcher that can play every day.
Oh, y'all
no,
got me thinking now.
no, I'm saying you can have a bat. So if Corey Lee can hit the way he does and be the backup catcher and then catch like once or twice a week and then DH the rest, that's a win-win.
Yeah, I got an idea of Edgar Quero being like a Greg Zahn type of guy, like on base. Look, hold on, wait, hear me out, because it falls right into y'all believing Corey Lee is the DH type, closer than an everyday catcher. What Quero displays at the plate, he's a brick. You're not moving him, and he knows how to pick a pitch out in the sequence.
How do you know that?
Because I watched the guy.
In minor leagues.
A little bit. A little bit. I'm thinking he's going to be a Greg Zahn. Now, the Tribe, I don't want to say this, but the Tribe got a guy named David Fry, who's the backup catcher behind Bo Naylor, and he plays first base, outfield, and he DHs for him. If Corey Lee's going to continue to swing the bat, but the White Sox want to move in a different direction with the glove, that could be an opportunity. He has a strong arm. He's a good enough athlete to where, think about this. The White Sox don't have anybody blocking him from getting some run out in the outfield. I believe he can be a better outfielder than Andrew Vaughn.
Stop changing people's positions.
No. Hold on, wait. If the White Sox can put Andrew Vaughn at third base, second base, in the outfield, I'm pretty sure Corey Lee can DH and play outfield.
Here's the thing, though. But why would you want Corey to be out there? I think that if you're gonna do that, then have him take ground balls at second.
I was just going off of the strength of if he's not going to be the everyday, if he's not going to be the catcher when Quero gets called up, there is opportunity at other positions.
Gonzo's gonna think this is funny, and these guys are gonna find this funny. So one of the things I knock Ozzie Guillen for and enjoy Cora was because one night in Arizona, they said tomorrow we're gonna play Toby Hall at first base. And I said, that is the worst idea ever. And they're like, no, well, he's going to have to play it, maybe in the season, so he should take some reps there. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't think that's a good idea. And Toby goes out. Obviously, Toby plays hard all the time. They hit the ball. Toby thought that he was still in high school, dove and destroyed his shoulder. So anytime there's like catchers that are like, that's their prime position, and they try to move them out of that position, I'm completely against it, because catching is so hard already as it is that you're going to need two guys. Every team has two catchers. Every team does not have two of anything unless it's a pitcher. Every team has two catchers. So if he can catch enough and hit where he can find other at-bats at the DH position, which right now the White Sox are platooning it, which is great. I love that idea, because it's really hard finding a DH like a Jim Thome. I like that idea.
Yeah,
but I would like him to be more of a Chris Hoyles.
What a name.
Chris Hoyles from Baltimore.
Not Gaetti just did a little.
Yes.
Did a little post on.
Not Gaetti. Great post on Hoyles and how underrated he was. He is this guy's on Twitter. If you don't find him, Gaetti has dropped stats from back in the day that are just awesome. But if he is, by the way, the guys that we're mentioning in the big leagues, most people might think we're making fun of him, but we're not, because he would be a very rich man if he has those guys' careers.
You know who's another guy too? If Corey Lee finds himself, let's just say first base DH, he could be another Ramon Hernandez. You remember him?
Yeah, I do.
A stick, a guy.
He's on his own.
Yeah. So, and Ramon has always played on teams with 2 or 3 catchers, and they forced him into the lineup. Yeah. They forced him to work with the pitching staff because he thumped some thump.
But so my only thing against Ramon Hernandez is the fact that they didn't put him in the movie Moneyball, which was complete BS. He was not a main character. He was not a main character. I still give him grief for that. Again, you never dropped Charles Johnson.
Oh yeah, you know why. You know why.
We'll do a whole other episode on that and our beliefs of. Sorry, but again, though, I think that looking at the negativity of this team, and this is something that I'm going to say, because Gonzo was Jay did not talk smack all week. Slav never does. He didn't text me one time. Gonzo was texting me game 1, second inning about the Cleveland. first game, second inning. Like he is so lucky that they won 3 games because he was so up on the White Sox. Like if they would have asked him that tailgate, should we extend the whole team? Everyone would have gone extended. And that's the fear that I have with this White Sox team. Fans get a little bit of a player, and now they want to sign everybody. Let the guys develop.
The good news is the White Sox now, after winning 3 or 4, are only like 18 games back of the Guardians.
14 from the wild card.
I was only texting you second inning because you weren't there. I want to make sure you were there when the Sox were being up on the Guardians.
All right, we spent way too much time on like the crappy part of this. Junior, you've been on Twitter all day today and yesterday,
Yes.
fighting people about a certain injured center fielder who apparently you think is not the best center fielder in the division.
Joke, but he's not right now.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So there's a kind of faction of people that think the White Sox should be entertaining trades for Luis Robert. Then apparently, for some reason, there's a faction of fans that think they need to be extending Luis Robert. I have no idea why you would do that when you already have 4 years of extra control. But my question is, regardless of injury status, you know that after this year, you still have Luis Robert through 2027. He become a free agent at age 30. So you have 3+ years of control, whatever he comes back this year, if at all. To me, the future of this team is not nearly good enough to hold on to a player like that. When you are contending again, he's 28 at best. He's 28. That's still, yes, in his prime. But do you actually have faith that the ownership and front office and prospect pool that the White Sox currently have is going to be able to compete enough in a year and a half, 2 years from now, that it's worth keeping Luis Robert as opposed to trading him? You got to remember, the sooner you trade him, the more you get in return because of the amount of control. It's the same thing with the Quintana and Sale and Dylan Cease trades. The longer that the team acquiring that player has him under control, the more you're going to get in return. To me, it's an absolute no-brainer. I wouldn't trade him necessarily at the deadline unless someone is desperate. If all of a sudden you're looking at 5 teams competing for a wild card and every division has 2 teams competing for it, maybe you get somebody to give you something out of desperation. But right now, you wait till the offseason, you give a team a healthy Luis Robert with 3 full seasons of control, you are going to get an absolute haul for one of the top players in baseball last year.
So people always critique trades of why they trade certain guys and why they keep certain guys. The only reason, in my opinion, and I'm talking about him because I saw his cleats, the trade for Jake Berger. Why did I like the trade for Jake Berger? Because Jake had a lot of years of control that under him still, and he was developing, and meaning control, meaning the team could play Jake whatever they wanted, arbitration and whatnot, but they had control. The reason the Chicago White Sox are in the situation they're in today with Moncada, with Eloy, where people think that they're underperforming for their talent, is not because of talent. It's because they all got paid when they didn't have to. They try to get sneaky and they try to pull an Atlanta Braves move where they signed a bunch of talent early on so they wouldn't have to meet their paychecks in arbitration. We got to remember, Pantera already got paid 60 plus for the years that he's playing right now. So why would you extend them not knowing what the future of this team is going to be? And if you go and do your research, you got guys who are free agents in 2028 by the name of Ronald Acuna. Other teams become free agents. Other players become free agents. So why would you tie yourself down and not draft a center fielder or not draft a certain position player because you don't want to move Robert? Right now, Chris Getz should have a small, agile team looking at all the possible trade possibilities with all the top prospects in Major League Baseball for Luis Robert. Even if it's not going to happen, Slav, they need to definitely consider all the trade possibilities and have a plan for every team who might come calling. Because you with the 2 years of control and then the 2 options at $20 million, if Luis Robert is the player that everyone thinks he's going to be or is, $20 million is going to be a bargain. Think about trading a guy to a team. You thought Cease brought a lot back? Luis Robert starts playing like an MVP candidate at $20 million. They're going to be giving up 5, 6, 7 prospects. So that's what the White Sox should bank on and make the team better. Again, not a superstar. Fill the positions where you need help. You can't clone Brian Ramos 9 times. You can't Closer Montgomery is one guy. You know, you can't have Noah Schultz pitch 5 days in a row. Carroll is not going to catch every single day. You have other positions where you're going to have to, you know, have guys fill in. So that's why I think that Luis Robert should be somebody that, I'm not saying trade him today, but you have to keep your options open in case you have to move him.
Yeah, like me personally, in regards to Luis Robert, he's a great talent. The problem is the season is 6 months, 162 games, and he does a lot of things bad that can hurt you. Like not setting your feet when it's time to deliver a ball from 250 feet. Like those things, missing a cutoff man from center field can kill you over a season. Your best power threat from the right-hand side missing 2 months on a soft tissue injury can kill you. I think Slav hit it right on the head. You wait till the deadline, not the deadline, the off season to move him because he's coming back healthy, and you'll give somebody a more refreshing sample size going into September, October, into the winter months where you will want to make a deal. But me personally, I just don't see enough of the skill on the day-to-day basis for Luis Robert. I still don't see an approach. His throwing arm is useless because he doesn't put himself in position to deliver a baseball. So there's things in center field that bothers me. And if I am Chris Getz, it wouldn't be hard to upgrade. Now, when you talk about Luis Robert, the talent, you're not going to replicate that. But you could get the value at 2 to 3 other positions making the move.
You can't replicate somebody that doesn't play 100 games?
Nope, can't.
Oh, because he's only played 100 game one time. And again, I'm playing devil's advocate. Pantera looks amazing in a uniform. I'm playing devil's advocate. He's only played 100 games one time. Okay?
That was last year.
And that was last year. So you got to put all the things in consideration, including his really cool name, when you're considering the future of the team. I know Gonzo's super passionate about the trade. Gonzo already would have traded him already. Pantera would have been gone. He was a GM. Please share your thoughts.
All right, guys. So, the White Sox, they have the 3rd ranked farm system at this very moment. However, most of that is pitching prospects. This is my opinion. At this very moment, I want to echo what Slavko kind of said already. They don't have enough position players, prospects-wise, to fill in the holes on that roster. So, because of that, I'm not building my cornerstone around Luis Robert Jr. I wouldn't have traded him before this moment because I need to get to the trade deadline, and I want to emphasize this. I don't believe Chris Getz made the best deal for Dylan Cease, but it was respectable. However, if I am Chris Getz, I am having both the Baltimore Orioles on the phone and the New York Yankees. I'm going to be maniacal as fuck, and I'm going to put them in a bidding war. I'm going to put them in a bidding war against each other. Both of them are competing in the AL East, and they can use a superstar bat in their lineup and in the outfield. Both of them.
So what you getting back for Robert?
I've already got packages put together out of Baltimore Orioles, New York Yankees, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. I put the Dodgers in there because San Diego Padres are knocking on their door in the division right now, and they can need a bat like Luis Robert in that lineup.
In the DL?
Well, again,
When he comes away.
my package deal, I in each scenario I put 4 bodies in there because of that, that factor you put in with the injury prone history he's had. That brings it down a bit. But I think 4 bodies is respectable in those package deals. I'll give it to you guys. I get my phone real quick and go to those packages.
He's going to get his package prepared. Go, G, what you got?
Well, the package, and this is a part, the package prepared, and this is what the hardest part of Chris Getz's job is that when you're going to move somebody like Luis Robert, you have to make sure that the person that you traded them for is someone that's going to give you a positive future. You don't want to have a Marlins, Detroit Tigers type of trade where none of the guys made it. A Christian Yelich with the Marlins that one guy just went to go play college football. You don't want that to happen. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't need 4 players. If they can give me 2 ready right now big leaguers, I'm considering it. If 2 or 3 big league, like 2 guys ready for the big leagues right now that have some levels of success, and maybe some minor leaguers that are more futuristic, I would consider it. I would depending on the position. For example, if there's like a prime shortstop today that they can give me, I would bring that prospect.
But why, if you have enough faith in Colson Montgomery to be your shortstop, who's at AAA already?
Colson will not play shortstop. Ozzie, I'm going to say this. Ozzie thinks he's a third baseman. And that's from a shortstop look. He said the same thing about Miguel Cabrera just because of his size. Again, vice versa. If there's a third baseman prospect that you're going to make a move for, or a first baseman, whatever position you're going to get, you need to get the most in return. It could be a starting pitcher for all we know. So I think from a package standpoint, you need to be able to get as much as you can.
Okay. Gonzo might be a little tipsy right now. He points his phone to me under the table. He goes, "I'm ready." So he has trade packages for 3 different teams for Luis Robert. Yes, yeah. I'm not gonna. I just need to set up the scene for you. Gonzo probably won't remember these packages, but let's hear it.
All right, guys. So obviously, when
real quick. Okay, Junior. After he goes through these packages, I want you to tell me how many names you are familiar with out of the ones that he mentioned. All right, let's hear it. Starting with the Dodgers.
before we get to the Dodgers, I got to put this in perspective. Jay's looking at me because he'll probably understand this. The Baltimore Orioles, they haven't been aggressive yet with their farms.
They traded for Corbin Burns.
No. I'm saying.
Not aggressive enough. Best pitcher in baseball, not aggressive enough.
Yeah, but he only has one arbitration year.
Okay.
So their farm system's loaded. They haven't even Jackson Holiday. I'm sure they're going to give him a month or two, but they just sent back down Hiersted. So these guys haven't brought up their prospects yet, and they're loaded, and they haven't traded away hardly any of them yet.
All right, let's hear
so they can be aggressive.
Yes.
So we'll start with the Dodgers since you.
No, start with the Orioles.
All right, Orioles. If it was me, I don't think you're going to. I agree with Junior. I would try hard to get guys like Kauser in that deal. I don't think they're going to give them easily. But I would start with these four names. Second baseman, Connor Norby. Outfielder, Dylan Beavers. Left-handed pitcher, Kay Pavlovich. Infielder, Leandro Arias. So those four names would be guys I would base them on. Junior, do you know any of those names?
Absolutely not. One guy sounded like a porn star. The other guy sounded like a hockey player. And if the other guy, the fourth guy's Venezuelan, he better not be Venezuelan. Because if he is, he's not played in winter ball yet, which makes him not that developed.
I'll get back to you on your boy, Leandro Arias. So, how about this next passage? Let's see if you know any of these names by the New York Yankees. Right-hander pitcher, Chase Hampton. Shortstop, Roderick Arias. Left-handed pitcher, Brock Selvage. And last but not least, their catcher, Agustin Ramirez.
I was thinking, if you're going to trade to the Yankees, give me Oswald Peraza, give me Reque, Oswald Cabrera. If you're going to trade for big league ready guys, you just mentioned three dudes that are not even in their depth chart.
No, these are top-ranked prospects in their system right now.
That's what I'm saying, but they're not.
I'm not trying to win in 2032, Gonzo.
Yeah.
All right, next one, Dodgers.
Dodgers.
Otani? Oh, I don't want it.
Two of these four are actually prospects the Dodgers got from the Cubs. But left-handed pitcher Jackson Ferris, outfielder Zahar Hope, left-handed pitcher Justin Werblowski, and shortstop Emil Marilis.
I heard of the Ferris kid. That's it.
Ferris. I've heard of the Ferris kid, but so when you're looking at the Burns trade, two guys
Much less control.
with much less control. Correct. So the part where worries me about Gonzo, and this is something in the majority of the people out there in the Twitter world, they don't understand when they say, why is Lenny Sosa killing AAA, but he can't do anything in the big leagues? Is a confidence thing. No, Lenny Sosa has figured out AAA. He has not figured out the big leagues. The big leagues is a big leagues for a reason. So when these prospects are in the top 10 for an organization, unless they're Buster Posey, Miguel Cabrera in that level, it's going to take them 2 to 3 years to be an everyday big league player. So unless you make that move today, those guys won't be ready to play by 2027, 2028. How quickly are they developing? Who was the last White Sox player to get brought up to the big leagues and have an impact in the first 2 years in the minors?
So out of the package I gave you, 2 of those 4 names are developed and just waiting to be called up. So
Which players?
Wait, develop for AAA, not the big leagues. So it works like this.
You develop in AAA, meaning I've already had all the extra criteria for AAA. That means that you have to start developing in the big league level. So they're developed enough to start developing in the big leagues. For me, an everyday big league player is a guy that's had 400 at bats at the big league position. Look at it right now. We're suffering it through it right now. My Italian stallion, Dominic Fletcher. This guy played in the big leagues.
I forgot about him.
He's going to be great. I haven't forgotten about him. I thought he was going to be the everyday. I had a bet that he was going to have a better year than Andrew Benintendi. Because I was like, oh, he's got big league experience. He came from the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's in AAA right now. So that's how hard it is for you to figure it out, even after a year or 2 years. Like right now, Brian Ramos, going back to that, this is probably going to be the easiest 3 weeks of his life in baseball because there's no video on him. Then guys are going to grab the analytics, the videos. They're going to start, nitpicking at him. So when I'm talking about developed players, I'm talking about guys that have big league at bats. Prospects, still, here's the best part though. Who is, when they get to the White Sox, to the continued development? That's my concern. Because every time a player comes here, the Sox still lack that development ability.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. When you make a move, trading Luis Robert and getting prospects back, you have to trust the organization to reach their ceiling. You can't give the White Sox the benefit of the doubt in that regard. Like, I don't know if anybody we acquire in a Luis Robert trade will be not only as good, but who will even make us competitive. Like, Gonzo, with your trades, we're gonna be competitive 2028, 2029 if we're lucky. When we could probably just have Luis Robert the next 2 years and have Chris Getz spend some cheap money and win 81 games and get the same amount of value without trading Luis Robert. It's just like, I want to get rid of him too. I want him off my team. I think there are a lot of guys that could play the game of baseball better than Luis Robert, who hit 37 home runs, who can potentially have 85 to 90 RBIs. There are center fielders out there.
Not on the White Sox.
Yeah, I know, but still.
Our franchise.
Yeah, but still. I mean, I don't think, Slav, I'm going to be honest with you. Luis Robert is an all-star talent. I do not think he's that good to where you start considering the fact that he's one of the best center fielders that has ever played for this team. And the only reason I say that is because the shit that makes a center fielder good outside of home runs, he's not good at it. He's not hitting the cutoff man. He's not making consistent contact.
So I'm going to disagree with Jay on that, because everything that he is knocking Lewis low, everything you're knocking him against, it goes back to management. The fact that he's not hitting the cutoff man is because he's developing under the wrong people. If you put Lewis Robert, okay, in his first 3 years with a manager and a staff that is there to develop you, you're not going to see him taking off innings. They might not market it, But I'm talking about guys that have developed players. Luis Robert, the people think that like developing a player is telling him run hard to first. No, it's when they don't hit the cutoff man. It's when they don't, they don't run first to third. The little things that they do, and that's where I think the part that's scary about Luis Robert is if you put Luis Robert's talent, his God-given talent, with the right team in the right conditions with the right manager, he's got Ronald Acuna stuff.
I'm not gonna lie. What if Luis Robert played with Tony La Russa his whole career?
Wow. How old is Tony?
100.
No, I'm saying like how old is he managing? If it's Tony,
Talk about the Cardinal way.
Tony's biggest mistake was he came to Chicago and wanted to become friends with everybody.
He wasn't Tony anymore. He wasn't Tony anymore.
When he came, I thought he was going to be Tony on Super Tony, meaning I'm old and I don't care and I'm going to hurt your feelings so bad that you're going to become great no matter what. Because I have a philosophy and people hate it. I don't think Ozzie Guillen becomes Ozzie Guillen if another person's his manager. Just because how my dad is personality-wise, how hard he was to manage because of how he was and how much of the game he knew at that age, but how he was outspoken and electric and kind of super aggressive, that if another manager would have been the manager of the White Sox, I think Ozzie Guillen burns out after 4 or 5 years in the league. But Tony made sure that he was on top of him so much. The guy has, 7 Rookie of the Years in a row? Ron Kittle, Ozzie, then he went to Walt Weiss, Canseco, McGuire. He went on like on a 7-year run. The only person that beat him was Tommy Lasorda. But I completely agree with that. I think that if Lewis, and that's what's important, if he's in a place where he can achieve that success and people can balance the way that he plays the game, keeping him on the field and helping him out, I think he is worth that much money.
And it's crazy because most in the White Sox fan base been trying to get Tony La Russa as far away from the team as possible, and we could have this conversation and say, well, if Luis Robert had TLR in his life a little bit more, maybe we wouldn't have these conversations about his deficiencies talent-wise.
No, I don't think you would because, again, sometimes you have lack of talent, of God-given talent. I think Luis Robert, the money's dangerous because of injury-prone. If you told me that he was not going to get injured in the next 10 years, I'm like, pay him. Because I think he's a guy that when he's in the lineup, even being super aggressive, which I think it's funny, White Sox fans make fun of Robert, but then they praise Ramirez on the Guardians. They never see him play. He has zero approach. He's like Vladimir Guerrero. See ball, hit ball. And he's a guy that's been in the MVP race every year for the last 5 years. So that's just how the player is as a player. You can be a Hall of Famer and be ultra aggressive. Pantera's never going to be Paul Konerko or Frank Thomas at the plate. Meaning he's not going to sit there and be like, this guy's going to throw me a changeup in 2-2 and I'm going to take him deep. He's not. There's only certain guys in the game of baseball that I've seen come into in the dugout and say, in the next pitch, in the next at bat, if he throws me a changeup on 2-2, I'm hitting it over the fence. Yeah. That's hard. So,
and I want to close with Luis Robert on this. I look at him as, a Torrey Hunter, a Jim Edmonds. You know what I'm saying? Guys that are the platinum glove in center. The only difference between Pantera and those other guys is the technical parts of baseball, the little stuff, the things that get you through 162.
To right field.
Yeah, but I mean, he doesn't set himself up to throw. So you can't have a noodle in right field.
Juan Pierre won a World Series.
I'm done.
Final thoughts on Luis Robert from Gonzo.
By the time the White Sox are competitive, it's not worth that extension for Luis Robert Jr. So regardless, you got to put yourself in the best position to make a deal for him. And Jr., again, from the get-go, I agreed. You have to aim high. And again, I'm going back to myself. If you're Chris Getz, you need to be maniacal. Like I said, you need to be maniacal as fuck to make this deal and get it done.
2 F-bombs.
2 F-bombs. So, and being maniacal, Junior, yes, I'm on the phone, and I'm asking if I'm talking to the Orioles, hey, Cowser, we're starting negotiations at Cowser and going to Kobe Mayo. But again, the 4 names I gave you were realistic at where those negotiations
That was on the list, so I didn't.
were.
You make me sick.
these negotiations are wrapping up around there. Again, going to the Yankees, I'm starting at Spencer Jones and then working with my way to those 4 names if I don't get Spencer Jones.
Can I give you a quick advice? So if that
Wait, real quick. Juan Diego Montenegro finally chimed in. Hello, Juan. Good to see you and hear from
Juan
you.
Diego is gonna be
Real quick, while we have a second. Everyone here that's watching the stream knows this is the Blackout Show. Everybody here is at a bar at Little Joe's at 1041 West Taylor Street. We need you to know that this Saturday is the first annual Pass the Boot event. There's raffles, 50-50. It's a great cause at a great spot. The food here is incredible. KG runs the show. He's incredible. You don't want to miss it. All the information's right. Oh, get rid of the glare. There we go. Oh. First annual Pass the Boot event. And we have some pretty badass prizes to give away, including, we saw earlier, Jake Berger's game used spikes. Okay, we call them spikes in baseball. Don't ever say cleats. And it's signed by the Bergertron himself. Okay, we got a couple other jersey giveaways. Hold that up for the fellas. Berger himself signed the jersey. Boom. Come to the event on Saturday. And then uno más from El Jefe himself, Senor Osvaldo Guillen, 1985 Rookie of the Year, 2005 Manager of the Year, World Series champion. He was here just before the show having a few free cocktails because he's a freaking superstar and everyone wants to buy him drinks. So this is Saturday, the first annual Pass the Boot event right here at Little Joe's, 1041 Taylor Street. Shout out to Kevin for being such a great host for us. So if you are free this Saturday, come check it out. You can get Jake Berger's signed jersey, Ozzy's signed jersey. Oh, Southpaw is going to freaking be here.
Does he have an ID?
Till at 2 p.m.? At 2 p.m., freaking Southpaw is going to be right here at Little Joe's. And we got to show you these again. These are so sick. Military camo, got the U.S. flag,
Those are sick.
American born, Jake Berger, signed the cleats. I said it myself, spikes. Pretty badass. So come out on Saturday. I know, I call myself out like a dummy. Gonzo has one last thought. He's got to get this off his chest. No, go ahead. Fuck Little Joe's, right? Yeah. Screw you, Gonzo. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So to wrap it, again, ending with the Dodgers, you're getting.
Who am I getting on the Dodgers? If his name's not Ohtani,
I'm glad you're not driving home.
Andy Bogus is where you start and end at. And again, real quick, we do have the receipts from last trade deadline. I was mentioning Nestrini's name in those conversations with the Dodgers. So I'm giving you, at the end of the day, I'm giving you realistic names as where they should be.
All right. To counteract, if you're trading Luis Robert, you are under the assumption that he is healthy. He is one of the best outfielders in baseball. He's one of the best hitters. You're starting high. I don't care what Colton Cowser has done or has not done or what his prospect number is. Everyone is tradable for a price. If the Baltimore Orioles believe that Luis Robert's going to make them a perennial World Series contender for 3+ seasons, you're going to trade Colton Cowser. You're going to trade anybody in that organization, essentially, that's a prospect or viewed as a prospect, not a current major league player. So Colton Cowser be damned. If you are getting Luis Robert for 3 years, like, you got to give something up. You can start with all the realistic names. It's not like trading a bunch of Joe Schmoes who were on the White Sox last year. You're talking about one of the premier talents that's still young and under control for 3 years in all of baseball.
And you don't have to do it now. Like, you can just wait for the best offer and not panic. You need, in this trade, you need a Houston Astros, Seattle Mariners, Freddie Garcia for Randy Johnson. Freddie Garcia for Randy Johnson, Houston, Seattle. One of the best trades ever for both teams and what they needed to accomplish. So that being said, though, this is where my concern is, because people love trading, and if they're going to trade him, and I said right now that they don't have to panic, they got to hope that Pantera stays healthy and keeps producing. Because 3 years ago, you would have asked for the same list for Tim Anderson. Okay? There was people that said that he was untradeable. They wanted to give him $100 million. And we've seen the struggles that he's had the past 3 years, and especially this year. He couldn't be traded right now for one top prospect. So that being said, Getz has to really be realistic And if he believes that this is the highest point for Luis Robert, then you move him then. If you think it's going to be in 2 years, it happened to the White Sox, where the White Sox got offered Rafael Devers, okay? And they said no. And then when they went to ask for him again the next year, they said, no, we have this guy named Moncada, and that's who you're going to take. Again, another top prospect, but they already had another year of evaluation. Devers and Bogarts was allegedly the first go around. So again, those things happen. So and I think for Chris, that is so hard because Pantera is such a talent. Premier position, he's got the 5 tools. When he's healthy, he's produced. I don't think he's a problem in the clubhouse. I don't even think he's anything in the clubhouse. I think he just shows up, does his job. He's just like, hey, what's up, guys? I don't think he sees, he doesn't have a clique. He's just kind of like just wanders around and, a very positive guy, meaning doesn't get in trouble. So a lot of positive things to come out of it. Here's the thing, though. If you don't move him and you're close to building, if you pick up that first option, he's still tradable because that means he was played well enough to get that $20 million that you can always move him later. So I think it's all going to be based on his health and how he performs.
Oh,
Yeah, you thought it was over? You people thought it was over, didn't you? Yeah, so I got a question. No Shohei Ohtani, no Juan Soto. Give me one name you would pair with Luis Robert if Jerry had the ticket.
The money?
No, one guy on planet Earth that plays in Major League Baseball, you would say, I want him hitting behind or in front of Luis Robert.
Ronald Acuna or Matt Olson?
Matt Olson's trash.
Acuna is a pretty easy answer.
What about Ellie?
Ellie, the guy who's hitting 6th and 7th for the Reds? Yeah, I don't know.
Who's got 20 stolen
I'll take
O'Neal. I might take O'Neal over Ellie.
Stop.
You're good.
No.
He doesn't even look at. That's how trash your question is.
bro.
Gonzo doesn't even have an answer.
Hold on, wait.
It's Acuna.
Hold up.
MVP.
Acuna's batting like 250.
Right today.
Yeah, today. Ellie De La Cruz is batting 280.
Ellie De La Cruz was like in the minor leagues 3 weeks ago.
Who?
Mookie. Oh, Mookie.
Mookie's he's better than O'Neal Cruz. How about that?
Yes, he is. And Ellie De La Cruz.
No, I would not pick Mookie over Ellie right now.
This is why he's in last place in fantasy.
hold on, wait. Time out.
Mookie Betts is
Yeah, go
Mookie
ahead.
Betts. By the way, if the Dodgers, if the Dodgers call
Good.
and ask for Pantera, and they offer Mookie Betts, the next 3 other guys, you're like, just give me your top 3 prospects.
So yeah, exactly. The problem is you accept Mookie and then you immediately go, who wants Mookie? Because you ain't keeping him. There's no point in keeping Mookie Betts.
Right. But I'm saying that Mookie's that talent that. By the way,
I'm talking about
Ellie De La Cruz and Mookie Betts should not be in the same conversation. That's just levels of big league.
Absolutely.
Ronald Acuna has an MVP. Mookie has an MVP. Ohtani, MVP. You took away Ohtani and Soto. So I think that I would like to see them because I think Pantera can be an explosive player. I think he's played to the style of the White Sox. I think he's so easygoing that if you tell Pantera like we're gonna play really fast and really hard, he'll be like, okay, like that's what we're gonna do. I think that if you put him with like an Acuna and that's like the model of the team, like the high energy, we're gonna go get it. I think he's going to adapt to whatever style the team plays.
Yeah, and the reason I pose that question is because it was actually a great question because it leads me to talk about this. We all want the same thing for Luis Robert. We want him to see as many fastballs as he possibly can. Putting speed in front of him can do that. Now, Mookie Betts is great with Luis Robert. Would be great. No, but I'm saying, would you rather have Mookie Betts won't steal 25 bags this year? He'll probably, but
Where did they get the White Sox last year?
if they have a talent like Ellie, you don't think it'd be compelled for Grafal to push the gas pedal?
What? You probably wouldn't play him.
I'm done.
He probably wouldn't play him. I'm just saying though, like if you have Ellie De La Cruz, if you have a guy that has speed, first you have to get the first, and then you have to have him run. That's the problem. Like you can't still.
that bad.
No, he hasn't been bad. But when you're looking at talent and you're looking at building for the future, there's certain players that you can never just look away. And I think that if you're going to pair up, I think this is one of the issues the White Sox are in the situation that they're in right now, that they thought they had that player in Eloy and Moncada, and they passed up on Harper and Machado. Like, when there's no one on the White Sox team that when they walked in.
Machado didn't sign.
No. He didn't sign because they didn't bring his second cousin. No. So no.
Really?
No. I'm not going to knock on the team right now and not knocking any of the free agents. But when Ozzie was the manager of the White Sox, he was very fortunate that guys that showed up as free agents were like dudes. Like the year that Jermaine and AJ Brzezinski that they signed, all the other guys were like, oh, those guys have won. They're competitive players. And then the year after the World Series, when Jim Thome walked in, everybody's like, oh man, we got Jim Thome. Like, we're ready to, like, they want us to win again. Even when Griffey came, like, they've never had in this team, they've never had that name, you know, where the guys walked into the clubhouse. Like, imagine if Bryce Harper had walked into the White Sox clubhouse. The change of the aura of Harper being there. Yeah. From a team standpoint, like Bryce Harper's there, and you're like, okay, we need to win. Bryce is there. This is how we're going to do it. That I don't think the White Sox have ever had that in essence.
So actually, Juan Diego made a good point. Bobby Witt Jr. would be maybe one of the few names that you would consider. This Junior doesn't agree. And Gabriel's watching. What's up, Gabe? Hope everything's well. He says he's retired from Twitter. I didn't know that.
Oh, Gabe retired?
No, that's a lie.
It's a lie. He hates me, so I wouldn't even know.
No, he loves me. So Gabe did not retire from Twitter. I'm unretiring him. By the way, I gotta be nice to Juan Diego because I just found out he's a Zulia fan, which is the worst team in Venezuela. So I feel for you, Juan Diego. We're trying to trade maybe for Lenin Sosa maybe in Venezuela. So I need an everyday shortstop.
I think Ozzie Sr. is just trying to recruit every decent White Sox player who deserves to play in the winter or should play. I don't blame him.
Again, so there's a part where we're talking about White Sox and Chris Getz. What happens if an old friend of yours says, hey, I made your team super successful 15 years ago. Would you lend me a couple players to help me develop them at zero cost for you? I think it's a no-brainer. Absolutely. If you're going to trust, if you're not going to trust players with Ozzie, who are you going to trust them with at that point? Okay. And again, I did say that Brian Ramos is going to be on our list. I think we're going to have to take him away unless Pedro really does Pedrolytics and never plays him ever again. Because if he keeps playing this way, he will get the at-bats. He won't need to go to winter ball. He'll probably enjoy his offseason in some beautiful place that's warm. But again, I wouldn't put it far past, if Andrew Vaughn this year does not do what he wants to do and does not get the at-bats, if I was him, I'd be open to winter ball and trying to figure it out with less pressure, a little different atmosphere. Because here's the part where I do give credit to Andrew Vaughn that nobody has ever, and I think he's done it the right way, was he developed, even though people don't think he's great, he's developed at the big league level. Because I know that he can destroy AAA. He's been struggling at the big league level. A lot of players have been sent down before that struggle, and that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because you have to struggle in the big leagues in order to be great in the big leagues.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things about Vaughn is he's the same guy every day. So even though we could expect, a 250 to 276 average, when he's in the lineup, at least you're knowing what you're getting out of him. And I mean, we would think that's easier for Grifol to make the lineup around him, but even that gets fumbled through the day-to-day operations.
All right, let's wrap this baby up. Our last thing, picks to click. I'm making my inaugural choice on the season. Gonzo, I believe you have the lead 3-2 for Jay, and Junior has. Wait, what?
Justin, you won pick to click last week, so you got your second win of the season. So at the moment, standings are like we were alluding to. I got 3 wins. Justin just got his second win of the season. Junior is at 1. Justin, Corey Lee's off the board. You got the pick to click. No, sorry, Andrew Vaughn's off the board. Apologize. You had Andrew Vaughn. So, Andrew Vaughn's off the board. You get the first pick.
We're going Paul DeYoung. Until he gets traded, I'll continue to win pick to click.
Junior's next.
Oh, man. This is a hard part. I don't only have to think stats. I have to think about, is Pedro going to play them? That's the hard part. You know what? I'm thinking they're playing the Reds next. No, the Nationals. And I said they were going to struggle against the Nationals. But you know what? I'm going to ride the kid. I'm going to ride Brian Ramos.
Yeah, wow.
Not surprised. By the way, I'm not going to win a pick to click till Moncada's back.
You ruined Gonzo's night.
I was going to pick Ramos because it seems like the easy choice. So after the Nats, you got the Yankees. It doesn't matter who they're playing. The White Sox suck ass. So DeYoung's off the board, Ramos is off the board, and Vaughn for winning last week. Golly.
That's like 3, 4, 5. Gone.
Do you know what I'm going to do?
No.
I'm going to mess you guys up with my pick.
Corey Lee's on the board.
No. Screw Corey Lee. Nicky Lopez winning pick to play.
Wow, you're
Book
close.
it. Book it. Watch.
You're close.
Watch.
That's not a bad.
Bet. Singles up the ass.
Yeah, or walks.
It's like the Players Club.
I didn't get the 2 start. I forgot about the event, so I went with Garrett Crochet last week. Didn't get the second start out of him, but I'm going to get 2 starts out of him from Wednesday through the end of next week. So Crochet is going to be my pick to click with 2 starts on the board.
That's disgusting.
I cannot wait till Pedro takes.
He just wrote it out,
like my-
crotchet, with a T in the middle. Oh, have another blackout cocktail, Gonzo. So to recap today's picks to clicks, Jay's got Paul DeYoung, Junior's got Brian Ramos, Slav's got Nicky freaking Lopez, and Gonzo's got crotchet. That's all we got for tonight's live episode here from Little Joe's of the Blackout Show. Thanks again to Kevin for having us here at Little Joe's, 1041 West Taylor Street, right by UIC's campus, Little Italy. First of all, drinks are incredible. Get yourself a blackout cocktail. Freaking 7-layer nachos. I had the quesadilla tacos earlier. Wow.
Philly cheesesteak.
Wow. Yeah, junior and senior who was here had Philly cheesesteaks. Outstanding. It's just been a great day here. Unfortunately, the rain canceled the outdoor event. We were going to have a White Sox game and talk about the game and do some stuff, but it rained, and now we're scrunched on this booth. But we have El Bandito Tequila. Shout out again to them for sponsoring tonight's show. Here at Little Joe's, Chris Chelios has been ushering in this new world of tequila. If you haven't tried it, it's pretty damn good. I'm not a tequila guy. I'm a bourbon guy. And then don't forget Saturday, here at Little Joe's, the first annual Pass the Boot event. You can win some pretty cool swag. Jake Berger, signed jersey. Ozzie Guillen, signed jersey. We have giveaways for tonight's show, too, by the way. We have some signed baseballs from Oso's chauffeur, a.k.a. Ozzie Guillen, the man himself. And then you get these sweet Jake Berger cleats that they'll be giving away on Saturday for the Pass the Boot event. Gabe, thank you for tuning in. Thanks to everybody here at Little Joe's that joined in to watch us. Juan Diego, as always, the man.
Yes.
Ray the Barber, as always, the man. Gonzo, take it away.